Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the 12th service of Lila Ministry, where our faith is rooted in God, in our divine creator. I'm minister, teacher, student, and servant Andrea Grace. So thank you for joining with me today. Today's service will be on why do bad things happen to good people? But let us first begin with prayer. Today's prayer, we're actually using Psalm 23. And so even if you don't know the number, you might be familiar with the words. So let's bring our two hands together in front of the heart, dropping the sit bones and the tailbone, softening the lower back, lifting from the heart, bowing the head just slightly, surrendering the I know mind to the wisdom of the open heart. Take a nice centering breath here. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me besides the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me in all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Amen. And now let's go ahead and bring our mission top of mind. So our mission is to provide a safe and supportive space for individuals seeking holistic healing and spiritual guidance grounded in our faith in God. We believe that true healing comes from a connection to the divine and the recognition of the inherent divinity within each individual. We seek to honor the body, mind, and spirit connection through natural healing methods aligned with God's design for the human body. We strive to empower individuals to take an active role in their own healing process by providing guidance and support that's rooted in spiritual principles. And we aim to create an environment that fosters compassion, connection, and growth. Through our work, we hope to inspire others to deepen their faith in God and discover the transformative power of spiritual healing. All right. Good. So let's take a closer look at Psalm 23 before we go into the bulk of our discussion. So the Lord is my shepherd. And so as a shepherd, which is an archetype, the archetype of the shepherd is as a leader, as a protector, and a guide. And so here we are flock. We are the individual sheep. And just as it was described in the recent quantum healing hypnosis session that I uploaded the other week, we each are an individual spark of the divine, like sparks coming from that original source. In order to be a shepherd, the shepherd tends to a flock. You can't be a shepherd without a flock. The flock doesn't have to be many, but it certainly works better for the flock when the individual sheep work together as one. So there's a lot contained in that. The Lord is my shepherd, and as he is the leader, the protector, and the guide, through that I shall not want, because he takes care of everything. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. And so if we look behind me, this diagram of the chakra system shows that the heart center is green. And if we look at nature, we find that earth is green. And so the earth, she supports us. She supports this life unconditionally. She gives us everything we need to exist, and our ancestors too. Our bodies are an effect of everything that we have partaken in out of Mother Earth's bounty. So the green pastures is that heart-centered state of grace. It's unconditional love. So he maketh me lie down in unconditional love. He leadeth me beside the still waters of our emotions, the still waters of our minds, the calmness. He leadeth me beside the calmness, the stillness, and he restoreth my soul. So with these conditions, our souls are restored. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And so we have the name, which is the bestowal of that state of grace of the Christos, of the Christ. We can use the Christ name, we can use Jesus's name. Both are powerful words that has a resonance. And we can use that for protection, for centering, for grounding, to ignite or strengthen our faith. And then, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And so that's true for us as we navigate this temporal reality. We find ourselves in the shadow of death. So from what we are, the true part of our nature's point of view, there is no such thing as death. It's simply changing form. And we can really experience that firsthand through the quantum healing hypnosis work, because in that work, we always go to the last day of this life that we're looking at and seeing if it is a typical kind of what we would call meat and potatoes type of life. And that's essentially what was illustrated in the recent quantum healing hypnosis session that I put up. So she came into the scene as a young boy, and then we explored that life through important days until we came to the last day of that life. And then just like that, she's on the other side of that life. And that's true for this life here as well. It's not different, it's the same. So that's how we're in the shadow of death. We're in the valley of the shadow of death. Death is actually the illusion. However, the body goes through a transformation, a recycling, because we don't take the body with us. And then through that, I'll fear no evil. For thou art with me. And this is reminding us that we're never alone. And in fact, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. So the rod is for protection. It's for breaking things down, breaking things apart, smashing things. And so we can use the rod to break apart our illusions, our delusions, our limited thoughts, our fears, our guilts. And the staff is the support, right? We use a staff to support us as we're hiking, as we're walking, as we're moving. And so we are given tools that comfort us, that comfort me. And then thou preparest a table before me. And so usually the table metaphor is when we are in presence with each other in community, and that it's a place where he can also be present. And we're reminded of that presence because it's repeated again in the next half with in the presence of mine enemies. So even in the face of that which is unloving or unkind, we can still invite presence. And then we have thou anointest my head with oil. And this is a beautiful sentence because it's reminding us that we too are the Christos, that we too have been anointed, that our cup runneth over because the energies of the universal life force is constantly moving through and around us. We're never separated from it, even when we no longer need this vehicle, this body. And then surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, because essentially we've been given a prescription on how to be. And now the final sentence is offering the truth, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And so if anything, that is where we can rest and sink into our deeper faith. So this is a really beautiful psalm of the Old Testament. If we're going to do a deep dive into anything, I would suggest doing a deep dive into the beautiful Psalms. All right. Wonderful. So our question is, why do bad things happen to good people? And it's an important question. So let's take a look at what this realm is. Now, in order to incarnate into this physical reality, it comes with it this feeling, which is very convincing, of separation. Separate from God, separate from each other, separate apparently through our bodies, because I am this and you are that. I am this and the table is that. So we have the appearance and the feeling, this convincing state of being separate. And so through that feeling of being separate, we feel alone and disconnected. And this is where loneliness comes from. We also do some mental gymnastics, which is that deep down, you might not have it in the forefront of your mind, but deep down, you're also entertaining these ideas that, well, I must have done something bad. I must not be good to have been kicked out of the kingdom of heaven. And so we all have it. Unless we have received that divine full inspiration and that remembrance. And yes, you have remembered that you are one with the holiest of the holies, then you are navigating this life through this artifact, which is this belief that I am separate. And then, like I said, out of that, I must have done something bad to be kicked out of the kingdom of heaven. So I am bad. Now, what ends up happening is that we navigate this life either as a reaction to that belief in as much as we want to prove that we're not. So then we push ourselves to be the good son, the good daughter, or you actually experiment with being bad and you live that out. And then that's kind of how we have that rebellious, and also the addict thrives in that realm as well. Now, so out of this belief of separation, naturally, we have this need to protect ourselves. We believe that we're inherently unsafe. And so so the framework or the groundwork, the emotional groundwork is that we're inherently beings of fear because we don't feel inherently safe. And we also feel disconnected. Not only do we feel disconnected from God, but as we take a breath and look around, we feel quite disconnected from nature. So even though we are dependent on nature and we are ourselves a part of nature, there's a part of us that sees that we're not exactly the same as nature. And then as we have evolved and as we have grown, we've created systems that further separate us from nature, from the natural world. And we also notice that we spend a lot of time protecting ourselves from the natural world, from that mosquito, from the spiders, from the mold, from the fungi, from the pollen, and from the temperature, from the climate. So I'm just painting a picture. I'm just arriving us at the realization that this is essentially, through the human condition, a fear-based reality. And nature itself is unforgiving. Nature just does what she does. So nature gives us something to respond to. And nature is inherently an example or a manifestation of paradox and opposites, which is contrast. So we seem to have arrived ourselves as this little light spark in the realm of paradox, in the realm of contrast, which then is the realm of adversity. We came here to experience adversity. And so nobody is spared. Nobody is spared from that. So now we find, so even in just this past week, as I was looking on social media, which I don't do very much, but I just happened to be on social media, and I saw that a beautiful member of our community, a healer, a mother, a wife in a loving relationship with her husband, she she passed away last week, and um, left behind her husband, her children, and she passed away through the cancer label. And so it does awaken that question inside, why her? Because she was a good one. And then we also had the events from Saturday where a would-be assassin, in the attempt to murder somebody, to assassinate somebody, ended up taking the lives of innocent bystanders. And so it's tricky, right? Because if we're looking at what happened on Saturday, where we see that while some people who, according to the stories, are good people, and one of the men was protecting his family. So we have, good people who, in their innocence, their lives were extinguished. And then we have the target, the presidential candidate, who was the target, who then just with a turn of his head was spared. And so there's that's a miracle, because he was the target. He was the intended one. His life was the life that was intended to be extinguished. And so somehow God's still in the room there. It's still all part of the divine plan somehow, even if we don't understand it. But what we can't unknow is that if something has played out in our realm, it was allowed to play out. And it was contracted at the level of the soul to play out in that way. And so somehow when bad things happen to good people, it's actually a contract. It's actually something that they agreed to before they incarnated here. And I know that's hard to wrap our heads around, but that phenomena is consistent through the quantum healing hypnosis work, through all the different varied people who have the experience. For some people, it is more like a choose your own adventure. So there's room for choice. And then for others, it's very much, this is what's going to happen. This is the person you're going to meet. This is the person you're going to marry. These are the children you're going to have. This is where you're going to live. So for some people, it's already an established fate-based kind of path. And you might hear those people saying, oh, well, it was fate. And then for others, there's more free will involved, and it's more like a choose your own adventure. And so it depends on the soul contract and why they came here. But let's go back to where we are. And so essentially this realm is the realm of contrast and paradox and adversity. And it is also the realm where we seem to have been forever acting upon our fears and this need to protect ourselves. So that's how within the human story bad things happen, is because it's an effect of eons worth of fear. So how I spend my day to day is an investment into my future day, where I choose to point the periscope of my attention and what kind of energy I nurture in my body and what it is that I'm broadcasting out into the world is the investment that I make into the future. So if I'm coming into the world in this moment angry and judgmental and guilt-ridden and fear-based, then I create more of that in my future moments. And so remember how in our last service we saw that beautiful passage where we're told how to focus, where to focus, what to focus the periscope of our attention on. And let me bring that up for you so we can look at it again. And so it was in Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Okay, so let's summarize before we go to the break. So this realm is one fraught with danger. It is the realm of contrast and paradox. We have winter, we have summer, we have night, we have day. So we are in this realm of contrast, paradox, and essentially adversity, because it doesn't necessarily do what we want. It rains on your wedding day. The tides might wash away your home. The ground might give way. This is the realm. This is what we're in. This is what we signed up for. And then on top of that, overlaid on that, is this artifact, which is not true, but it feels true, this perception that we are separate from nature and separate from God. And so these are the conditions that result in what we would observe as bad things happening to good people. But so before we go into break, just consider that somehow it's bringing us back to love. It's bringing us back to gratitude. It's bringing us back to presence. And so when good people go through adversity and even lose their lives, there's something that remains for us that's important. And so when I read the story about this colleague, and it was, to me, unexpected, I didn't know, I hadn't heard. For me, the result was having gratitude for the life that I'm living, for the relationships I'm still able to enjoying life through my 5 physical senses. So it brought me to presence. It brought me to gratitude. In a way, these experiences are for us, actually, so that we can bring more love, more gratitude, and more presence into this now moment. So as an angel is born, reborn, returned to heaven, then we here get to bring those graces, those angelic graces, through their experience into our now experience. That's where we have the power with the periscope of our attention. And so, as I said, that we have this artifact that is the belief, the effect of the belief of being separate from God, separate from nature. But deep down, what is more truly true, what we actually are, is this beautiful divine innocence. And that innocence is creative, it's curious, it seeks beauty, it wants to play, it wants to connect and love. It's inherently forgiving, inherently accepting, it has humor. And so these are the true original divine graces that create the conditions for joy. And this is truly what we came here to connect with, to not be distracted by the meannesses, by the judgments, by the fear, the guilt, the doubt, and the worry. But make those things, make the graces, the love, the light, the truth, the good humor, the curiosity, the desire to connect, the desire to understand. It helps us to continue to do this good work and for me to use my time in bringing these services to you. And so I'm grateful for any and all contributions. And so you can use a check. I actually used a check yesterday to pay for some goods. I'm preparing to travel, and so there were some few things that I wanted, and so I went into TJ Maxx, and I wasn't anticipating spending as much money as I did, so I didn't have enough cash because I usually use cash. And so I thought, but wait, I have my checkbook. And sure enough, they accepted checks. So if you would like to use a check, you can make the check out to Alila Ministry. And the address is 430 Springfield Avenue in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, Suite 209. And the zip code is 07922. And if you prefer, you can just simply use PayPal or Zelle. For Zelle, you just use the account number there, and then the name is Alila Ministry, one word. And if you prefer to use PayPal, then there's the QR code and or the URL there, and that's just an easy donation. So to that, let's enjoy the music, and I'll be back in a moment.
Be left when we are done. No, I see you crying from all that's fading. Can we let go and start again? Is it enough to stay and fight? I wonder what came before and what will be left.
All right, welcome back. How are you doing? Are you good? Are you hydrating well? Making sure that your lungs and your brain and your muscles are well lubricated with that good water. All right, I heard that the Schumann resonance is going off the charts today and yesterday. So that's interesting. And I got to say, I can feel it a bit. I woke up headachy and a little bit congested and a little body achy. And then as I was talking to some friends who are up from out of town, they were sharing that they too felt the same way. So it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. So where we are, what this is the realm of story. And so we act out or we live the story through these archetypes. But first, let's just go through our anatomy in terms of from the energetic perspective. So we have the apparent physical body that comes with its 5 physical senses, which is amazing. And so it's through this apparatus that we experience the physical world. And so the way that we experience the physical world is through that which is a like vibration to the interpretive devices of our 5 physical senses. So we can only experience something if it's of a like vibration. And that's through the physical body, through the physical senses, through the physical reality. This is the gross, the realm of the gross, meaning the densest. But then we have our emotions, and our emotions are movement, right? So emotion, energy, and motion, we've heard that before. It's a chemical, it's a chemistry, a biochemistry, where emotional molecules get secreted, they meet a receptor. So there's an exchange. And if our tools are sophisticated enough, we have the ability to be able to measure these and even count and possibly even weigh these emotional molecules and identify the receptors. So we're still in the realm of the five physical senses, depending on how sophisticated our tools are of observation and measurement, right? So that's more of our subtle aspect of being, which is our emotional terrain. Also, part of the subtle is our mind, is our thought systems. Now, it's measurable. We can't weigh a thought. I think it would be a hard task to count thoughts, although I think I shared in my last service that somebody had said that 98% of the thoughts that we're thinking today, we thought yesterday. So somebody's out there counting thoughts, I guess. But so the thoughts, we can measure them again through a more subtle measuring device, and it's more electromagnetic as opposed to biochemical. And so then we have what's the pre-thought. And so in the realm of mind, we also can find our senses, which is really amazing. Because if I were to ask you to think of your last, best, most favorite meal, and I sometimes do this as part of the conversation before a quantum healing hypnosis session, if you were to think of your last, best, most favorite meal and where you were and what you're wearing and how that felt on the body and the smells, the different aromas, and then also even, remembering eating the food, the texture of it, the flavor of it. So all of our senses actually exist pre-physical, pre-carnate. So that's interesting, right? So the physical senses actually exist in the subtle aspect of our nature, but then gets lived out through our physical experience and through the body. So the senses then are made manifest through the body. So amazing. But actually, they exist in the mind. Your five senses exist in the mind. So then we have the causal aspect of our nature, which is pre-thought. And that's where the subconscious is, and subconscious beliefs are really a governing force for our lives. And so if you're taking a breath and looking around and finding that you're the one where, you think you're a good person and bad things keep happening to you, then it might be worthwhile to have a kind of session, such as a quantum healing hypnosis session, to be able to access these deeper subconscious beliefs. And they're hard, for the personality level of mind, for the beta level of consciousness, your conscious level of consciousness, it's difficult to find. They're much more subtle and quiet. But the quantum healing hypnosis can reveal the story or the context or the theme that then arrived your mind to hold this belief. And usually the belief is for protection. So interestingly, if you are one of those people where you feel like you're a really good person, but bad things keep happening, then it may be simply that you're witnessing an effect of some deeper subconscious thoughts that you haven't brought to the light yet. But that these deeper thoughts are actually a protection. They're protecting you from something. So even though your interpretation is, I'm cursed, well, bad things keep happening to me, even though that's your interpretation, but actually it's a protection somehow. And it has a much more intelligent design. So and the quantum healing hypnosis session would reveal whether you are in fact cursed or not. But I don't tend to lean towards that kind of perspective, and it's not generally what I find in the sessions, but more that, well, for example, I'm holding the belief that, let's see, that in a past life, that or a memory that's somehow close to this lifetime now, or a storyline or a theme that this consciousness can easily access, that's relevant somehow thematically to the life that's being lived now. Let's say something bad happens. So let's say that, okay, well, actually, let me share one story. So in the session, the man had arrived in Egyptian times when the pharaoh was building these great structures. And so at that time he was a sculptor, and so his job was to, he was in charge of the reliefs that would depict the pharaoh's life story on this particular building. And so that this is a very esteemed position. And he shared that, so when you had such a position, you lived high up on the hill. You were given a house. You didn't have to buy the house, but it was part of the package. And so it's tricky because you want to now maintain that. So you really want to do a good job. Okay, so anyway, he did a great job. It was perfect. And so when we went to the important days, he was stressed. He was stressed about the timeline, about getting it done. But then he got it done. He was successful. He received the accolades. And then the pharaoh turned around and had him killed anyway. Actually, on the last day, we found him entombed, alive. And so that was how his life ended. So his subconscious belief in this lifetime now, which is what he came in to explore, was that when he was successful, he would sabotage his success because he was afraid that if he really was successful, he would lose his life. Something very bad would happen. He would die. But most people are actually not afraid of death. They're not afraid of being killed. Actually, what they're afraid of is being disconnected from their family, from losing that connection with their family and leaving their family. All right, so now what we're here doing is living out these stories. And so inevitably, stories are only interesting if we have conflict and adversity. And so if you've ever watched Hallmark, which I have, I love those movies, there is always right on cue. There's a conflict. They're starting to get close, and then something disrupts it, and there's a misunderstanding, and there's a conflict, and then off they go, and then eventually they come back, and they're getting close, and there's another mini conflict or misunderstanding. So good. Anyway, so but this is true for us. We're living out these stories. So if anything, before I finish up here with this message, is that when we start to see that our life is an effect of how energy is moving, it's an effect of archetypal energies that are existing in the causal aspect of our nature, that then get dense down and then get acted out through what we are, through our personality, through these different roles, right? So we might have the teacher part of us, we might have the healer part of us, we might have the mum part of us, we might have the leader part of us, we might have the um help me, we might have the jester part of us, right? So we have these different archetypal energies that get to live through us as the multifaceted aspects of our personality. So we're quite complex, and we're interesting, but it's not really personal. It's just that these energies get to be lived through us, and we kind of get to see what's going to happen next, because we're often in response to that which is happening in the world. And then sometimes these big events will birth a different aspect of us, or will bring to surface a deeper soul gift for us to bring into the world, will bring extra clarity and then our purpose. So I've shared already that what happened in 2020 was that I knew right away that something fishy was going on. It was very, very fishy, and I didn't understand it fully. But the little bits that I was getting from mainstream media and from the health officials at the time, it was incongruent with my truth and what I've discovered in my path, and so it just wasn't a match. And so out of that, then was born this archetype of the advocate, which I didn't know I had really. So know that too, that these different energies can be birthed in response to the unexpected and the unwanted, to the adverse, that which we would consider to be an adversity. And so out of that, it'll be interesting actually to see what happens next, given the event that happened, that near assassination on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that, because there are a lot of forces at play right now. And in order for that event to even have taken place, it's because we are getting to see what fear does, what control does, what power does, what greed does. We get to see what sin does. And for my part, it's a miracle that it wasn't successful. So let's see. So to finish up, let's just say that all of this, no matter what, and this came through the quantum healing hypnosis session that I shared, is that at the end of the day, everything is for love, for us to be love and loving in the face of that which is unlovable and unloving, that we don't lose our center, that we don't lose our peace. And that in the face of that we treat each other as we would want to be treated, that we live out the golden rule. And the golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and treat thy neighbor as thyself, which came up again in that quantum healing hypnosis session. So let me just bring these up for you. So Mark 12:29, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And then again in Matthew 7:12, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And so how do we live that? We live that by literally endeavoring to put ourselves in their shoes, to think what they're thinking, believe what they're believing, feel what they're feeling. It's so that when we look at them and when we include them in the scope of our attention, that we are relating. And even if we can't find something that's relatable, we think to ourselves, well, I would never do that. You would, though, if you were believing those thoughts, and if you had that kind of upbringing, and if you, as a result of believing those thoughts and subscribing to those stories, that you would feel this certain kind of way, and therefore treat yourself and treat others in that way. Because essentially all that's happening here is storytelling. And so what stories are you believing? And are you being spellcasted? So I was working with one of my regular beautiful people today, and he was sharing a story about how someone at work made a derogatory comment. And so he had two choices in that moment. So the derogatory comment, he either got to rebel against the derogatory comment by saying, well, I'm not that and I'm going to prove it. He kind of regressed to acting out that derogatory comment. And so that derogatory comment was like this earworm that went right into his ear and ate his brain, because his brain was just hijacked with what he was going to say to this person and how it was going to play out and how he was going to show up. And this is what we do. This is what we do. We go into imagination, we make this play, we write this script, and then we act it out in our head. And reality never goes the way that we want it, or expect it. And if it does, yay, it's a miracle. So what we explored was that, well, how is he a mirror actually? And how was that an opportunity for you to dig deeper into the truth of your self-knowledge and to act from that place, to treat him and treat the world, treat the environment from that place, and what kind of different outcome that would have been. So I'm not saying that it's easy, but clearly there are, at this stage of our evolution, it seems to me that there's room for more education around how to do this. But anyway, for now, let's just put this here, and we'll finish with that. We'll finish with the golden rule, and I'll keep bringing up the golden rule because it reminds us, it doesn't give us room to be victims to our lives. It actually encourages us to take 100% responsibility for our happiness, now peace in the moment. And that's our job. And this is how we bring heaven to earth. This is how we do that, one at a time, one heart at a time, one mind at a time, using your personal will to connect with divine will. And our psalm was teaching us how to do that, right? Which is from the heart-centered place, which is to lie down in the green pastures, to rest in unconditional love and support, and to rest beside the still waters, to abide in the still waters, to become the waters of emotion, the waters of consciousness of mind, to be still. And remember again that thou anointest my head with oil. We are the anointed ones. We have the Christos light within us. We came here to bring heaven to earth. All right. And so to that, I say thank you for joining with me, sticking with this. If you weren't here, I'd be talking to myself, which is no fun. So thank you again. And I am traveling for the next 3 weeks. So there might be a break between the services. However, you can always jump onto the Alila Center calendar and see what online classes are available. I'm back here in New Jersey in August, mid-August, and so classes will resume. And I am available in that last week of August to do sessions. In fact, I booked a remote session for while I'm away just before this. So, all right, have a wonderful few weeks if I don't see you between then, and I will be back soon. Oh, and I think I will, people have asked me to vlog the trip, so it's possible I'll do that too. So keep an eye out. All right. Enjoy your Sunday. Bye.